This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
I've got to be honest with you, I've spent so much time as a guitarist without enough money to spend on certain things that there's a bunch of things that I've just never really even considered particularly good value for money, and one of those is like getting a guitar set up. As ridiculous as that sounds, I'm someone who's built a few of my own guitars. I'm someone who's done a fret job. I've done like a fret level and, you know, some like light amount of work on this stuff, enough to know that I'm no good at it. But at the same time, growing up, I would buy a guitar from shop Manson's, and you'd get like a free setup like a while after. I think it was something like within 6 months or a year of the purchase, and I kind of enjoyed using that free thing. But I kind of got it in my mind that basically what was happening there is that you'd get a guitar back and it would have just had the strings change. You'd have like a nice bit of lemon oil on the fretboard, but it wouldn't be something that made a huge difference. Now, I've recently taken this Strat to Jeremy of Garland Guitars, who actually used to work at Manson, so I can remember his face from going around his shops. Now, I don't have any reason to tell you this other than that's who I've used. I don't think he's given me a discount or anything. He didn't know I was going to make these videos. But you've probably got a tech somewhere near you. Jeremy is very local to me. But he has actually sort of transformed that guitar for me in the range of like maybe it's 30% more likely or something like that I pick it up, or maybe I feel like it's a 30% better guitar. You know, like the frets are smoother. There's a string retainer on it. These are like little things that can make a big difference, because there's not too much on the guitar that we're actually putting our hands on, right? You know, you're touching the strings, they're touching the frets. This hand oftentimes has got a pick in it, that's not really touching. This is touching here. So it's just one of those things where actually like having a decent fret job, a decent like level of frets, you know, frets that aren't completely cooked, is probably actually a benefit. And I think in this Tele could do with some work. So I've messaged him this morning, can I take this one over? So this is another Tele that I've made myself, or another guitar that I made myself. It's not perfect, and I think it's the charm in it for me is that I did like a very achievably dodgy distress look. So it's like, I guess you would call it like a barn caster at the time. I could see on the forums and stuff. But anyway, it weighs £7 7 ounces. I've just gone and weighed it. It does stay in tune. I do gig this thing as a backup. It's pretty solid, and again, I think it's one of those things where, like the other parts caster, you know, I've tried other guitars, I've tried sort of Mexican guitars, I get to try a lot of guitars, and I feel like actually a parts caster, you can get pretty close to having specs that you might prefer, or a thing that feels pretty premium without spending crazy money. But there is a key component here, and I think maybe it's even a key component with any new guitar that you might buy, because I've got a buddy, Dave, who does take all of his guitars to a tech, where it's like you get that extra something out of it. Like, so a lot of the guitars that we're maybe buying might be from America that we're moving over to the UK, might be from Japan moving to the UK, might be from Indonesia, and we all have like different climates to one another. And these are pieces of metal bedded in pieces of wood. These things move over time, rarely actually perfect at the factory. And that's for good reason. Like, it's not that they weren't perfect when they left in some cases, but it's just that things move over time. And certainly over time, we wear frets at different levels in different places, and things can just start to move away from like that perfect setup. So I think I need to think about this again. If we try and get up and close and personal with this guitar, these tuners actually feel really decent in the hand. I think these are pretty cheap, but anyway, they feel pretty good. This is a Mighty Mite neck. I think it was a 14-inch radius or something like that. Absolutely not what I'd choose now, but it was just a neck that I could find online for fairly cheap at the time. Maybe a 12-inch radius. I don't know, but anyway, flatter than I would go for. Oh, I've had since 2015, so it's like now 10 years old. You can see maybe that the frets could do with dressing. I think we're starting to, this has never had any attention paid to the frets, so I think they're doing pretty well considering. This was at one stage a guitar that I played quite a lot. I've gigged it a fair amount as well. It's like a backup guitar. So I think the frets are definitely in need of some attention. I don't know, maybe a string tree, if that's something that could improve things. Maybe I could ask him to tidy that up, but I'm not entirely sure whether that's worth it. It's just an aesthetic thing. And what else here? That's about all really, but I think a fret dress could definitely be in order and really get things playing, you know, a bit smoother, because you can see probably there, like, that's getting to the stage where something is needed to do it. But you can probably, I don't know if you can see, like, sort of the natural aging process with these guitars is that you start to get a bit of fretboard rolling at the edges to some extent, but it is a slow process, isn't it? But it does feel really good in the hand. I did this horrible job, sort of inspired by a Nash Tele, I guess, in some ways, of like this neck, which is looks crazy now, but that was at the time, because this already had lacquer on it as well, so I sort of sanded some off, and then that's like vinegar and steel wool, so that's what makes that, and that looks horrible. But other than that, it's like quite a nice Tele to play. So I think this one is definitely worth, I think, giving a go. It's maybe a little bit heavy. Definitely think worth, you know, giving Jeremy a go on guitars. Get him having a look at the frets. You know, if you've got, like I said with the last video with the Strat, is it going to take a guitar that you hate from being a guitar that you hate to something that you really love? Maybe not, but just these little differences, like smoother fret edges, like a more level fretboard, you know, putting in things that I miss, like a string retainer, you know, setting up a bridge slightly better than I can. I think it's just things that someone who does this sort of thing all the time can maybe do better than you. It's definitely not something that, you know, particularly fret work. I've done a fret job myself, I've done a fret level, but, you know, this is something that
an expert would have been doing for, I think Jeremy's been doing stuff for 25 years. I think it's money worth spending.
It's not necessarily a thing I would get done all the time, but if you've got a guitar that's been played a lot for a while and you've kind of sort of fallen out of love with it a little bit, you know, when was the last time you changed strings on it? And then have you ever taken it to a trusted tech and thought, you know what, this guitar could be better? And this is what I basically said to Jeremy with the Strat. I kind of said it's like a sort of a blank check thing. Like, if you say this is going to cost £500, like, I'm okay with that, because that guitar is like a parts caster I didn't spend much money on. If I can spend a bit, I ended up costing like 87 quid or 84 quid, something very reasonable. But again, I'm going to say to him, like, do what you can with this Tele. Like, maybe you could even tidy up the back of this neck a bit if you're so inclined. Is there anything you can do aesthetically to make that look a bit more pleasant? But you know, can you dress the frets? And just, you know, see where this guitar can end up for me, because it's in the weight range that I like. I gig it quite a lot and enjoy it. It's got K-line pickups in it. But instead of just thinking about, like, I can either buy a new Tele or sell a Tele, what about also just kind of getting a thing playing slightly better? This isn't about spending loads of money on different pickups and things, which could put different pickups in it, they might make a bit of a difference, but playability is really quite a bit more important to me, because I can tweak tones, right? But, you know, getting a guitar feeling right under your fingers and playing well, that I think is maybe where I should be, you know, spending a bit more time and attention, rather than just, you know, churning through lots of guitars. What about getting the ones that you do have in a state where you're like, actually, I really appreciate that guitar for what it is? That's kind of where I'm at as well right now, where I've sold quite a bunch of guitars, and the ones that I've got here are basically things like this that either I don't think I'd be able to sell for very much money, so it's worth kind of having this, as it is the guitar that I've owned the longest. But having this in a playable state, I think, would be quite a pleasant thing, because I think it looks alright, plays alright. It could be better, and that's kind of why I'm thinking, you know, if you spend a couple of hundred quid on it, is that worth it? You know, maybe even in the future I might change this neck to be a slightly thicker neck, but there's something about this weird neck for me which is slightly slimmer than I would normally use with high action that I actually really appreciate on this Tele. Anyway, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. Take the guitar to a tech. Let me know in the comments if you're someone who's got a tech that you trust, that does good work on your guitars. I think it'd be great to sort of give some tech some love, because I think it's a side of the guitar business which I think it's harder to make money than building, for instance, like good parts casters or stuff like that. It's kind of like the unsexy-ish but really important part of stuff, and some of these guys work on the road, you know, with your favourite guitar players. Some of these guys work from home, but I think it's important work. So shout out to Jeremy for doing that guitar. I'll drop this over at some point. He, as I say, doesn't know I'm making this video, and yeah, cheers for making my guitars playable.